Welcome to What the Frac, the podcast that dives deep into the world of fractional professionals. Join us as we feature insightful interviews with the 2024 Fractional Conference speakers. For more information and to stay connected, visit www.fractionalconference.com.
Here we are, live. My goodness, this is amazing. So welcome everybody to the WTF podcast, What the Frac podcast. I'm your host, John Arms. As always, we've got great guests, we've got great producers, we've got amazing things to talk about, and we're going to kind of get right into it today. You may have noticed a little bit of a hesitation there in that when we do podcasts, we're not supposed to talk for the first couple seconds. And for talkers, that is so hard to do, almost impossible. But we accomplished that. So we are, I guess if I were to say we're broadcasting live from the Frac studios, that would be true because no one's to say we're not. In a studio these days is pretty much anywhere there's an internet connection. So with me today is the wonderful Jake Stahl. Jake is going to be speaking at Frac this year. And if you haven't gone to fractionalconference.com, there will be links and all that stuff. Make sure you get there. He's got a very specific thing to talk about. And it has to do with sales. We'll get into that a little bit, but I want to start by saying, welcome, Jake. I'm super glad you're here.
Oh, John, it's always exciting when we can get together and jaw a little bit. So I'm excited too.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So since you and I last talked, we talk pretty regularly, but you must have fallen down a stairs or something like that. Why do you have a sling on?
I was in a horrible gum chewing accident.
A what?
Just kidding. Gum chewing accident.
Oh my goodness.
Not funny. I actually had rotator cuff repair. So I just was in surgery last Wednesday, and the sling is going to be my best friend for weeks and months to come.
For weeks and months. You know, well, I'm glad you're on the mend.
Thank you.
You know, the one thing about being fractional is, as we all know, it's a wisdom game. Like with our age come wisdom, but every now and then something else comes with age, and that's like rotator cuff surgery, maybe a new knee and all that kind of stuff. But small price to pay for being able to divulge our wisdom with the rest of the world. So for those of you listening, watching, hearing, driving, listening, all of that, you can find Jake on LinkedIn. And what we're going to talk about today, I may butcher the title, Jake, but Jake loves the psychology. I think you have a degree in psychology. He loves the mindset of sales. And we both come up from a place where we just can't stand traditional sales, like the pitch, and it's all about me and the transaction. And, you know, when we talk about this and it drives us nuts, and Jake's like, we don't have to do it that way. And he's going to share a lot about that at Frac, but you also do this in your daily life. And I believe, what is the title of your talk at Frac? Tell me again. Do you know it off the top of your head?
Maybe not. It's the Client Whisperer, how to master the art of client attraction without the sales hustle, I think is what it's called.
Without the sales hustle. So I want to kind of take this in a couple pieces. Let's start with current perceptions on sales hustle. Like, why do we hate sales? We don't like being sold to. I mean, you know, when we think about it through the context of maybe traditional, or what we don't like what is with that word that makes so many people bristle?
Well, you know, John, from the time we're born, we're conditioned with certain things. It's inevitable. And for those of you who are psychology fans, it kind of harkens back to Pavlov's dogs. You know, you ring the bell, the dogs are fed. So every time he rings the bell, the dogs salivate. And it's not any different for us. You know, we know a knife is sharp. We know a bear is dangerous. We know the stove when it's turned on is hot. That's conditioning. We don't have to think about a response. It's just there. Well, as we go through life and as we get negative sales experiences, we get conditioned to think sales are bad. And it can be interpreted as sleazy, maybe a little underhanded. And the reality is we all sell all the time. And that's a very old saying, you know, we all sell all the time, but we do. And one thing I talk with my clients about all the time is they say, I'm not good at sales. And I say, tell me why. And then they sell me on why they're bad at sales. So I think if we could eliminate the term sales itself, this whole process would just be a lot easier.
It would be a lot easier, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You know, what the conditioning, do you think that is a result, like conditioning is in relation to some exposure, like
Sure.
what you have been conditioned to? I'm not expecting you to have the math on this, but do you think we're still in a world, I feel like we are, in a world where most of our sales experiences are negative, a bombardment of emails, a bombardment of text messages. It feels like we're still in a world of sales the wrong way, but you tell me.
Yeah, and this is something we're going to cover a lot in the talk at Frac.
Oh, good.
Is, we look at sales and we think negative things. Somebody will say, oh, they just sold me. And that has a negative connotation. So we kind of translate that and we say, so if I have to do sales, I have to stoop to a certain level. And I hate doing that. Mm-hmm. So I need to find a way around that. How can I not sell when I'm not a good salesperson? And at the Frac conference, I am going to show you the easiest possible ways to do this without even considering yourself a salesperson. You're going to attract people almost magically through some simple things we're going to be talking about, and it's all going to revolve around conditioning. How can we take advantage of the conditioning we already have to draw customers to us?
I love the title of your talk because it has the word whisper in it. It's called The Client Whisperer. And it's so funny because you often don't attach the word whisper to sales. You might attach yelling, screaming, begging, interrupting. A lot of words might go to it. Let's get into that a little bit. Well, I'm pretty sure it was intentional you have that in there. Talk more about the whispering part.
Well, I think we can all harken back to the dog whisperer, which was made famous by Caesar with the help of Oprah Winfrey. And he did an amazing job. And there was the movie, The Horse Whisperer. And I think basically what it says is that you can do things almost at a subliminal level, or you can almost do it in a whisper and make that impression that you need to make. And so many people interpret sales as loud and let me ram something down. And although I appreciate the premise that you need to get to yes, I think that's way oversold. If you're struggling to get to yes, you're working too hard. Selling is an art, and it's a process, and it's something anybody can do. But I think the big thing to remember, John, is it's counterintuitive. We tend to think the more we talk, the better we sell. And what we're going to talk about extensively is the less you talk, the louder you become. So the whisper is going to become a shout, and you'll see amazing results.
I was talking to somebody recently, and they told me this wonderful story. And I don't think it was related to sales, but it certainly had to do with working with a good leader. And the story was a person apparently made a good impression on somebody. And they had a Zoom call. And the person later found out from the person he was on the call with that they just loved him. That person is great. I'd refer them to anybody. Absolute master in their space. Just a great person all the way around. That was the feedback. And the person who was telling me the story was, I think I said like 5 words on that Zoom call.
Yeah.
How did they decipher all of that? I said like 5 words, maybe 1 complete sentence. There's something here. Let's talk more about it.
Yeah, so if we all have our recorders nowadays, right? We have the autopilot, we have the Fathom recorders, everybody's got their recorder. And I'll speak for me. I'm lazy and only I can read my handwriting. So it's just easier for me to have something that reads the notes back to me. But what's really cool about the recorder is it will tell you how much time you talked in a conversation versus how much time somebody else talks. And when I work with clients on this, and what we're going to talk about at Frac is how little can you talk and still get the business? And that's the amazing part. So when we say with the title, we're going to avoid the sales hustle, is because there doesn't have to be a hustle. I'm going to show you how to just sit, listen, and make the largest impression possible. The whole goal of talking to somebody is to have them say, oh my God, I've talked so much about me. Let me hear a little bit about you. When you can get to that stage, you've won. And that's what we work towards. And it's an easy process.
How little can you talk? That's a challenge. That's a challenge.
Right.
But there's an inverse here of, and I guess it comes from if you're in sales, maybe newer to sales, I've got a number to hit. That number might be a certain number of phone calls. It might be a sales number, but it's this whole numbers thing, which doesn't lend itself to patience or being in the moment. It's always about being in the future. I got to hit that number by the end of the month. I got to do all these calls by the end of the day. And there's this great thing I read about in between action and reaction, there's space. And you can just be quiet.
I like that.
And live in there. It actually came from Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. Very beautiful book. But there's sort of always like, I got to talk, I got to get my thing in, I got to get it in. I feel like I have to do that. And it's counterintuitive. So what I tell people is just don't do it. Just don't do it. You don't feel like you have to say anything. It's a wonderful gift. So, all right. So we've covered the whispering part, but you can't be completely silent, right? You have to be present in a way.
It's a whisper.
That's a whisper. That's certainly a good way to go about it.
John, can we touch on something you just said a minute ago? Because I think it's super important. Is you said making so many calls per day. Mm-hmm. If there's one myth that we are going to blow out of the water in this talk at Frac 2024, is that math is an illusion when it comes to selling. This whole, I have to make 20 contacts to make a sale. And in order to make 20 contacts, I have to make 100 dials a day. If you believe that, if you have that as part of your business mantra, I want you to attend my talk. Because I promise when you leave, I will completely destroy that. And the reason is we focus so much on averages. Well, I know last year I averaged this. Let me just say this. You're not the person you were last year. You're not the person you were yesterday. So to base future projections on what you did in the past is a false premise to start with. It's not even a good thought to have. And that's something we're going to get into great detail. Throw away this whole, I got to make 20 to get one thing. It's a falsehood. I've proven it wrong in my own business model, and I'll prove it wrong in yours. Hey everyone, Jake Stahl here, fractional CSO of Frac 2024. Are you ready to take your fractional business to the next level? Then get your gear ready for Frac 2024, the ultimate conference for fractional professionals. Now, let me assure you, this isn't just another boring conference. It's all about learning, community, and serious inspiration. You're going to walk away with a treasure trove of resources and support, so you won't be flying solo when you get back home. You'll rub elbows with industry leaders, soaking up invaluable insights and cutting-edge tools for business, such as AI integration, so you can be delivering knockout value to your clients. And the best part? You're going to feel inspired and pumped and ready to crush new goals and reach new heights. Oh, and did I mention sponsorships are still up for grabs for those who want to make an even bigger splash. So don't miss out. Learn more and sign up today at www.fractionalconference.com. And I will see you there.
That's awesome. For those of you listening and dialing in, Jake is referring to an upcoming. If you're not aware of Frac, the whole, this is the What the Frac podcast. Frac is a conference where fractional professionals, aspiring fractionals, sort of leaders like EOS people, like the whole world of entrepreneurial fractional independence arrives at Frac for a couple days, and Jake and many others are going to be giving talks and sharing learning on this wonderful space we call fractional. So had to do a little bit of business there so people knew what we were talking about when we said Frac and fractional conference and the moments you have there where you'll have a microphone. There's another word you have that's very intentional. I think everything you do is intentional.
Thank you.
And the other word is attracting. And let's talk about that, because there's you were just talking about math, like Go do all of this stuff. Go foist yourself upon the market. Like put numbers out there. Well, it's a whole different thing when you think through the lens of attracting.
Yeah.
Talk about that if you could.
Yeah, and that's a great point, John, and I'm glad you brought it up. You know, when we think about acquiring a customer or we think about talking with a prospect, the first thing that comes into our head is, I got to talk smooth. I got to get it ready. I have to have that 30-second elevator pitch. That's not attraction. That is getting ready with the proper verbiage, having your patter ready to go, because I hate the word pitch, having your patter ready to go. And that is being prepared and being a good business person. So the real question is, how do we get them to be attracted to A, listen to us in the first place, and B, want to hear more? You want to be that person that if you're among 20 people who all give the same patter, you want to be the one that they go back to and go, oh my God, I just heard the same thing 20 times, but John is the guy I want to be with. There was just something about him that made me want to pursue business. And that is the attraction part. How can you make yourself so memorable and so attractive that people not only are interested in you, but price almost becomes a non-issue? It's, I've got to work with him.
Yeah.
I have to. And that is the attraction piece. So I don't want to teach you how to business develop. I want to teach you how to become so good at what you do and so attractive in your profile that people don't need a call, or when they get one, they're like, I'm already ready to talk to you. That's the attraction.
My partner in crime over at Voyager University, Jason Voyevich, he often talks about, we teach this, right? We're teaching all of this. And he says, everybody's hustling to get a proposal out, right? If I get a proposal, I'm closer to a client and all of that. And he says, whoa, right? Don't worry about that. Don't push that too hard, because leaders, people will ask you.
No question.
Based on everything you're talking about here, and Jason follows the science as well. Funny story about Jason is he was fortunate enough to be in a small cohort with Tony Robbins when he was younger. So he's learned for some masters. He's learned for some masters. But what he says is, leaders have to act like leaders, and they will ask. And you attract when you act like a leader. And here we are, right? The key word in fractional is leader.
Right.
That's the key thing right there. And how do leaders behave and act and think, and what is it? How does that relate to sales? So, well, I'm so glad. I mean, like you're going to shatter some norms. Kill some expectations. Tell me about a little bit of, I don't want to give away your whole thing.
Sure, that's fine. I don't mind giving a little drops here and there.
It's going to be a good, it's obviously, you were there last year. You're dynamic, you're engaging.
Thank you.
Go if you can get there, everybody, because it's just like you're getting a $20,000 masterclass in this whole thing. But if you could talk a little bit about networking.
Yeah.
So the idea is you're going to go out and do some things and get some sales, but what we know is most of it comes through networking. So talk about the distinction between sales and networking, attracting, whispering, and how all that comes to be.
Yeah. So I think the networking has kind of a weird connotation to it, right? The word network implies that the more people you talk to, the higher your odds of getting business. And I think that's true partially, but I think more importantly is how you network. There's a funny meme I remember reading years ago that you can have 20,000 friends on Facebook and still spend a Saturday night alone.
Yeah.
And I think that's largely true of LinkedIn. This isn't to take away from people who have a large number of followers on LinkedIn. I have a boatload of respect for that. But I think there's something to be said for how many of those people do you know? How many of those people could you call and go, could I ask you a favor real quick? Or do you know anybody who would do X, Y, or Z? So I think the value needs to be placed on that a little bit more. So your initial attraction of getting your people in your network is always a good call. You want to build your network, but I think equally important is the quality of the people you bring into the network. I'm going to share how I network in particular at the Frac conference. And it's really different than what you see out there. As a matter of fact, I would say it's diametrically opposite of the way many people would network. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not telling you my way is the right way. I'm telling you my way has worked great for me, and maybe a variation of it will work for you. Maybe it won't work at all. But I want to propose a point of view that incorporates what the famous social psychologist Robert Cialdini calls persuasion.
Persuasion.
How do you persuade someone before you actually meet them? There are ways to do that. They're super simple and easy, but it takes patience. And it really is just completely different from the way a lot of people think today.
The way a lot of people think today, that seems like half of our work in fractional is the world is changing. What we thought, what was 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago is either no longer or changed so much that it really isn't relevant. And specifically when it comes to networking, as I teach people how to get into fractional, and now we're connecting clients to fractional talent like you because we know that helps. Yep. And it's one of those things that I think people are kind of afraid of. Like, it's also different. It's also new. And also, I never had to do this in my job before. I worked in corporate for huge. 25 years. Networking wasn't a thing.
Right.
It wasn't a thing. Talk about that.
Well, and it's so funny to talk about this. I was talking with a client like not even an hour ago, and I was saying to them, let's talk about a CMO just to put a position to it. You're a CMO, large multi-million-dollar national or international company. Your attraction is your title, and people come to you because you're known as a go-to person, right? You're the marketing guy or gal. You make all the decisions, so people come to you for that. But when you leave, when you get out from under mom's apron and you all of a sudden have to go to the schoolyard, people don't know you anymore. So it falls back on the value of your network and the value of the way you network. And there are some brilliant people in the marketplace that teach you how to network. You have people who know how to master LinkedIn. And if I can do a shout out, Colin Herdman does a great job with LinkedIn marketing. You have masters of referral machines like Brian McDonald. So you have a lot of people out there that really know their stuff. And my suggestion, John, is get to know these people. And there's no better place than a place like Frac where these people convene and you can tap into their expertise. There's no reason to be afraid of getting into the fractional world when you have so many people that can offer you value immediately. It's really because that's what they do.
It's the nature of fractional that we've discovered all together, right? The whole community, the whole fractional economy, whatever you want to call it. The tribe, right? It's amazing how many. It's like a help and be helped place. In that order, like people give before they get out here so easily, and so wonderfully, and so naturally, which quite honestly hasn't been how you talked about conditioning. We haven't been conditioned that way, but what a relief that is, right? Like, well, I don't really like how I was conditioned. I don't want to do what I was conditioned for. I want some new conditioning. I like to give and help, and I like how it returns to me, which is great. Which is amazing.
Fluff your pillow just for a second.
Oh boy!
Really brought together an amazing movement, and I think many people who know anything about fractional largely consider you the father of this movement. And I think a byproduct of something so amazing like you put together with this conference and everything else is can I live up to that? So how do I get involved? How do I live up to it? Especially when I sit alone in my office at home every day. And that's just another reason to get involved with things like Frac or Fractionals United or things out there that group you. Not only aren't you alone, but you've got a support structure that's magnificent. Some of the world's leading people have joined the fractional movement and are givers, to your point.
It is amazing, and it has been. Like someone was asking me, why are you Why do you have all this energy for this? And I'm like, it's about freedom. It's about self-determination. The entrepreneurial spirit that comes with this, the freedom, like making your own way, making your own schedule, like prioritizing your family. I'm like, that's as American as it can possibly get. I don't think we've been acting very American, millions of people, for the last many years. Meaning, like go get in a cubicle, stay in there, and get laid off.
Yeah.
Like the self-determination, the innovation. I'm not saying that's everybody, but by the millions, people have been stuck in that cycle. And I just have this belief and this vision that like the more people are freed from that conditioning and can find their own wonderfulness, how much better the world can be for everybody. If I was thinking this morning, if I could make one magic pill to get rid of one thing in the world, you know what it'd be?
I don't.
Imposter syndrome.
I would agree with that. That is huge.
It is so damaging. We don't need it. It's there. It's real. Listen, Oprah suffers from it. George Clooney suffers from it. It is a natural condition.
Yeah.
But and you can't like just decide not to have it, but you have to learn how to face it, right? You have to learn how to face it. And I feel like I write about this in my book, in the most recent one, Revolt, about how the conditioning has not been to build yourself up.
Yeah.
Like the reinforcement of you're only worth a 1 or 2% raise, just slightly around inflation. You and 50 other people on the corporate ladder, you probably won't make it. You get laid off through no fault of your own and you feel like you're nothing. Like all of this conditioning that says you're not worthy is not true. Yeah. And so that's like after I accomplish everything I want with fractional, I'm going to become a scientist. I'm going to make an anti-imposter syndrome pill.
Well, I think we should call it the leastless pill. And the reason I say leastless, Leastless, the leastless pill, because I think, to your point, John, we've gotten to the point where we go, well, at least I have my health. At least I have a job. At least I make a paycheck, even though it's not a lot. And we convince ourselves that we should accept the very least. And the reality is we should be shooting for the maximum we can get. Now, I want to put a codicil into that. One of my biggest frustrations is the motivational speakers that say, you can be anything. You can't. An NFL linebacker will never be a horse jockey. I will never set the 100-meter yard, dash record for the world. But if we look at what we can do and we surround ourselves with people who are just as interested, if not more so, in our success than we are, man, you can set your own limits as long as it's within your reality. And again, to plug for FRAC, I found this last year at FRAC 2023. I still keep in contact with so many people from that conference. I'm dying for this year's conference.
Oh yeah, it's hard to describe to people. And we're coming up on time, so I want to stay on this point you made. There's a beautiful thing in there you just said is an NFL linebacker will never be a jockey, right?
Right. Yep.
What people need to realize is they're awesome and wonderful as they are.
Exactly.
And just to be the most of what that is, because I feel like you're awesome, right? But if you're holding back, you're not being everything that you are. You're not using all of your gifts. You don't have to go manufacture a new you, right?
Right.
But they're not yet, until they become fractional, like getting to the most of who they can be as they are, right? Yeah. And I think it has to do with that settling, at least. So I hope for a world where, this will happen at FRAC, like you were there last year.
Yep.
Like all of a sudden, like the God rays open up, the skies open up, like the realization, like these are my people. There's a future here I couldn't even imagine until I got here. Let's do some business on that. So let's talk about. So go to fractionalconference.com a little bit. Not you, everybody. Everybody's listening. And you'll see tickets. You'll see speakers. You'll see a lot of great content. I was told this morning there's a great commercial with Jake in it. Like there's all this energy. There's a
My
tremendous
debut.
amount of energy. There's all this wonderfulness out there. I think Casey can correct me later, but in about less than 10 days, we're going to have an awesome survey on the state of fractional. That'll be complete and out there, and that is like unbelievable what we've learned. So a little bit of, for those of you listening, like there's a place for you to be if you are a current fractional, if you're a veteran, right? If you're a veteran fractional, or if you're aspiring fractional, or if you are one of those people that supports fractionals, right? Like that you have services or things that you do, like, oh, my perfect customer is a fractional pro. This is like the only place all of that happens. It's the only place where all get together. We need a drink. We need a drink that's just for fractionals. We haven't thought about that yet. I don't think we're thinking is on all the things. We'll come up with that.
Yeah, we'll come up with something. I'm always up for a drink.
Oh, absolutely. Well, here we are. It's going to be a great talk by you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining the little podcast today.
Yeah, of course.
Find Jake, everybody. Find him on LinkedIn. Jake Stahl, Stahl. Jake Stahl.
Yep.
And because, you don't have to wait till October to see Jake, right? He's alive and breathing today, and you can catch him on. Are you doing podcasts and webinars and stuff still?
Yeah. I'm on quite a few podcasts. I started my own, and I've been doing a number of webinars. So yeah, there's a lot of places you can catch me if you want to find me.
Yeah, find Jake. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jake. It's going to be awesome
thanks
in
for having me.
October.
Yes.
I hope your arm heals up great.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm going to go do some whispering today. So thank you. For now, we'll sign off and stop recording, and our producers will tell us what to do next. But thank you, everybody, for joining the WTF podcast today. And thank you, Jake.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for tuning in to What the Frack. Don't forget to register for the 2024 Fractional Conference at www.fractionalconference.com. See you next time.